A storm system sitting off the Delaware coast. It was there last night. It's there today. It'll be there tomorrow. And it'll probably still be there on Wednesday. And it's produced heavy rains and gusty winds and who knows what else. Even some sleet, according to a message I got from Bill Goodman in northwest New Jersey. We'll talk about that and more on, and it is a non-tropical coastal storm. All that and more tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. They serve the entire New York, New Jersey, Connecticut tri-state area with everything you need when it comes to making sure your home looks good, is working well, and is protected in case of adverse weather. And it's only October, but every day we're one day closer to wintertime, and that means Long Island's largest provider of rock salt. In the meantime, if you're thinking about making your yard looking good this fall, they still have plenty of mulch. And of course, for protection with adverse weather, we've got batteries, generators, pumps, and more. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. 631-756-1125 is the telephone number, and the website is omnitruevalue.com. So we are still waiting for the arrival of Mr. Rayo. I have no idea where he is, but I'm guessing he probably has some technical issues going on. So I'll start the show in the meantime. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show tonight. Just a couple of things. We pushed the start time back to 7:35 rather than 7:30, just so Joe could get a little extra settled. And I see that I have to resend the Zoom link. Let's see. Oh, I thought I sent it. Messenger's been acting weird on me lately. Okay, so let's try this again. And here we go. Oh, I think he should be able to get it on here. There we go. And there it is. All right, so he should be here momentarily. In the meantime, we've got this coastal storm that has been sitting since yesterday. Well, it began forming yesterday and last night, and it's been a sizable rain producer, outperforming a lot of the guidance that has been out there in terms of rainfall, especially over central and southern New Jersey. And now it's even getting the Joe's here. Hang on one second. I got to move him around, and I got to get rid of me. There you go. You know, Messenger Joe is evil. I sent you the link, and I don't know what, I looked at it and it wasn't there, so I don't know what happened. But no matter. At least I thought I sent you the link. But we just got through the open. He's here. Do you have audio? Yes, he has audio. I can hear his dulcet tone. Yeah, yes, exactly. Okay. So I got a couple. Let me just quickly a couple of things. I just want to just take care of business. 7:35 start time, just to let everybody know. Instead of 7:30, we're just going to move it up 5 minutes. What else did I want to bring up? Oh yes, for extra weather coverage and extra videos, including full analysis of the long range and anything else important going on. The link to my subscription site is up on the chat board. It's pinned to the top. There is some stuff there that is available to everybody, so you might want to give it a look. And I appreciate everyone's support. So a couple of things, Mr. Rayo. You know how we usually do the Georgia versus Putnam Valley? Who gets to the 40s first? Who gets to the 30s first? Who gets to the 20s first? That game's already pretty much over with, because last week while I was away, 4 nights with lows in the 30s, including one night where it got down to 33. And for I looked at the long range forecast for Friday morning. They're going, I think for Friday morning they're going 29, and for Saturday morning they're going for 27 for lows. So I'll beat you to the 20s as well.
Well, yeah. So Maybe you'll end up with the first snowfall of the season, for all I know.
Well, and on that note, Bill Goodman sent me a message just now saying let me get this correct. Hold on just a second. It's important to get these things correct. At Packanack Lake, up in Passaic County, in northern New Jersey, they had a report of ice pellets at one of the stations up there. Believe it or not.
Really?
Now it's got to be convective. As I was looking at the radar, it's got to be convective, and you must finally have gotten into the rain, judging from what I see on the radar. If not, you're about to.
I don't think so, at least as of 5 minutes ago. Now, I'm looking at the same radar that you are, and unless the rain is evaporating before it gets down to the ground, I would agree with you. But I have not been outside in about 5 or 10 minutes. I just finished dinner about 10 minutes ago, so I haven't had a chance to look. But yeah, it looks like the rain has finally arrived in at least my vicinity. New York City proper looks like they've had a period of light to moderate rain. But meanwhile, out across central and eastern Long Island, the rain appears to be letting up, and there seems to be an opening in the rain, and some of that is heading westward. So places that have steady rain now may very well see just some light drizzle or maybe even no rain in the next hour or two. But you're certainly right about the fact that the models underplayed this particular weather system, Joe. It looked like even yesterday, we might get a couple of showers. Well, no big deal. And now, again, it looks like steady rain has been falling for a while, at least over in the immediate New York area. And it looks like we could have this tomorrow as well, because the storm that we have been tracking, bringing up the rear, so to speak, behind the remnants of what was once Ian, has now idled in neutral gear to the east of New Jersey and south of Long Island. And it looks like it's going to be a problem for at least the next 24 to 36 hours.
Yeah, and a few people have been. Well, there's a couple of. I'll address the first thing that came to my mind were the temperatures, which I'll talk about in a moment. But a few people I saw were referring to this as the remnants of Ian, and it really isn't. I think you could make a case for maybe the stuff that we got on Saturday. On Saturday was more part of the complex that was with Ian, but this is clearly a cold core system, and what we've got, the upper low is sitting somewhere in eastern Virginia, eastern North Carolina. The surface low is out here, and if you look at this, you can kind of see where the turning is. There is a bit of a low level circulation, no big surprise, but notice there's no convection. There's no thunderstorm activity. In fact, even though you see the clouds on the visible, you say, maybe there's some convection could possibly be forming there. And then as soon as they go to the infrared, you can see that's mostly low clouds that are out there. So this is not a tropical system. It's really more about a really solid setup for overrunning with higher pressures to the north. We've had this the wind. And by the way, Joe, they've been gusts of 50 and 60 miles an hour along the New Jersey shore and point southward from this, because that's where the gradient is the absolute tightest. And I have the surface map here, and this is the 21Z surface map, and they analyze this as a 1,007 low. You don't need a deep low to get big wind. When you've got a 1027, 28 high, a 1027-ish high sitting in eastern Canada, pressing down, all you need is a sizable pressure change over a short distance, and there are your isobars. So the gradient is playing well along the coastal areas. Gale warnings are up for the coastal waters, and there's been also some moderate coastal flooding. There are coastal flood warnings and advisories from Long Island down through New Jersey and into Delaware, and I expect that that's probably going to continue into tomorrow.
Yeah, it looks like that's going to be the case, and a couple of people have been asking me about how does this impact the Mets. Well, first of all, the Mets, you saw what happened to them over the weekend. But for those people wondering now about the last three games of the regular season, tonight's game has been canceled, And if they cancel tonight's game, there's no question that they're going to cancel tomorrow's game because, to me, Joe, and I don't know if it looks like this to you, but to me, it looks like it's going to be every bit as wet, if not even wetter, by this time tomorrow into tomorrow night, as opposed to what's going on out there right now.
Well, look, the rain's coming in bands, and there's one band, the band that moved through Long Island with some moderate to heavy rain. Yeah, that's pulled out into the Hudson Valley. And I'm thinking, by the way, with that reference to that sleet, if it's real, what's probably happened, the air is relative. People were commenting yesterday about how low the dew points were, with temperatures in the 40s in some places, and dew points down in the 20s. So there must be those lower dew points. There must be some sort of dry layer in there where the precip comes down, and you get some sort of evaporational cooling, and it's producing some ice pellets. But going back to the rain, there's another band that's developing east of the New Jersey shore on the wide view and extends out into the Atlantic, and it's moving north and pivoting northwestward. So, yeah, I think if the low's not going to move and you still have the upper low, which is actually going to get a little bit stronger overnight and tomorrow, yeah, I think there's probably going to be more rain to deal with here. And there's been 4 to 6 inches or more in parts of the southern half of New Jersey out of this, and now seeing even some heavy rains down in central Maryland and northern Virginia. I mean, this has really pushed itself back westward.
Indeed, and it does not look like until maybe sometime. Now, you talk about convection. I was thinking that there could be convection, some rumbles of thunder, maybe even a full-fledged thunderstorm after midnight tomorrow night into the early part of the day on Wednesday. Now, I know that the Storm Prediction Center does not have any part of our area blocked out or painted or brushed out for possible thunderstorm activity through Wednesday, but I still think that there may be enough forcing in the atmosphere to set off some convection after midnight again tomorrow night into the early part of Wednesday. So something to watch, but I don't think until sometime midday or afternoon on Wednesday will the last of the rain, the last of the showers finally peter out. And if that be the case, what can I tell you except I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. It'll probably be low top stuff, I would imagine.
And one of the reasons why I think the Met management canceled the game tonight is that they just threw up their arms and said, all right, I mean, we're not going to win the division. We got swept over the weekend by the Braves. Probably the Braves are playing the low-life Marlins now. They'll win tonight, and it makes the last 3 games of the season, or at least the next couple of games, superfluous. Hey, guess what, Met fans? The Marlins are beating up on the Braves right now, what the Mets could not do. 4-0 in the 4th inning. So if the Braves lose tonight, they lose a half game off their lead. It also shaves a game off the so-called magic number for the Mets. And it makes maybe playing at least 2 of those 3 games in the rain here in New York important. I don't know what to tell you. Again, because I think that tomorrow it may be just as rainy, if not even rainier, at Citi Field as opposed to what canceled tonight's game. And you're right, Joe. The rain is coming in bands. And in fact, you can see on the radar that there's a nice opening in the rain now. Rain has shut down for the most part over portions of central and eastern Long Island. It looks like it's trying to head to the west toward New York City. So it's probably going to be a case of, on and off, on and off, on and off. Of course, when it's on, the rain is going to come down pretty good. Although I must also say that based upon the QPF forecasts, New York City wasn't supposed to see much more, let's say, than maybe 1/10 of an inch or maybe 2/10 of an inch of rain. They've obviously already seen about that much now, and they're probably going to see even more later tonight into tomorrow. So face it, folks, we're stuck with this pattern probably right on through at least early on Wednesday before any improvement, any changes come our way later Wednesday into Thursday and Friday.
And there's another band of heavy rain that just moved through Monmouth and Ocean counties. And that has moved inland and continues moving northwestward. And looking offshore, you're saying that the rain, and this radar, by the way, it's coming up on roughly 7:50 Eastern time. So the last frame on the UCAR radar is from 15 minutes ago, so 7:35. And note that if you go about 100 or so miles south of Montauk, there's another big band of rain that's forming out there and is moving northward and will probably pivot onto the northwest. But the northern edge of the rain, there's some higher top echoes here that are moving through Rockland County and well, yeah, I'm just trying to gauge this. They got the roads and the counties are sort of overlapped, so I can't make out what's what. But you just said it started raining where you are, so that makes total sense. And those areas to the north, which have been dry all day, might have to wait till the rain saturates the atmosphere enough to actually reach the ground. But eventually, it will get there. I want to just switch over to the Fort Dix radar in New Guernsey and take a look at it from their perspective. And you can see that big patch of heavy rain that earlier went through Monmouth and Ocean. Actually, this is, the loop is loading here, so we'll just give it a moment. But there you go. So that area moves in. These bands go into Pennsylvania, into southeast and south central Pennsylvania. Then they start to weaken as they try to move further west. The southern end of this is actually flared up north and west of Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. And there might even be the odd thunderstorm in there. There comes another little band moving in into coastal New Jersey at the moment. So busy. And one more radar view to show you here. Why don't we go to the Dover, Delaware radar? And you can see it. Gives you a bit of a wider perspective with New York City on the top and down to about just south of Richmond on the bottom. So it's that's the area really that's going to keep getting hit over and over again during the overnight tomorrow because it ain't moving. It's just not moving.
Lump, dumpty dump, dump, dumpity dump, dump. I'm imitating Cecil Turtle.
Yes.
From the Warner Bros. Cartoon, where he's moving like a turtle, and that's how fast the rain is moving, like a turtle. So
well the low itself,
there you go.
The low itself is basically spinning in about a 50-mile radius over and over.
It's idled in neutral. Yeah. It's idled in neutral gear. Yeah, you're right. It's like spinning wheels right now. So
I want to just pull up. By the way, the darker green and lighter green here, coastal flood advisories and a general coastal flood statement for Long Island and for southwest Connecticut, Westchester County, in and around New York Harbor. And you go further south and you start to get into coastal flood warnings, which I'll do in a second. But I just want to let me pull up LaGuardia here. 49 right now in Central Park and 52 at LaGuardia. This is another, it's not really an argument, but a few people were saying, Joe, think about the fact that we've been talking about how it's been a number of years since we've started a fall with a really autumn pattern, which is what this is, okay? A few people were saying it goes right from summer to winter, and I probably got myself into a friendly disagreement over the fact that people are calling this quote-unquote winter, okay? Temperatures not getting much above the low 50s or even upper 40s, not unusual in early October if you have a setup like this, okay? But if this were winter, we would be talking about temperatures in the 20s. This is not winter. This is autumn. So I'm just being evil by doing this. LaGuardia got 3, 6, 14, a quarter of an inch. A quarter of an inch between 3 o'clock and what's the 15 is what? 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. The last ob on here on the history is 6 o'clock, so they're missing the 7 o'clock ob, I guess. And I want to go a little bit further south. I want to check see if New Jersey has put out a public information statement with regards to rainfall. They didn't do it. They didn't have one earlier. And no, they do not have a public information statement yet. Because I was hoping to get some rainfall amounts, but I'll pull up Atlantic City just to see what they got so far. So let me hang on one second here. And there are your coastal flood warnings for Ocean County, for coastal Burlington, for Atlantic and Cape May counties, and also for the central, I don't know what county that is in central Delaware and southern Delaware, bordering Delaware Bay, and advisories going further up. But Atlantic City, let's see what their rainfall total was so far today. And they got, well, you know what? They've got quite a bit, Joe. I mean, I'm looking at these numbers. So starting from this morning, a tenth, and then for the next 3 hours, almost an inch. So 98 hundredths plus 86 is 98, and 86 is 1.84. Then add another inch and a quarter to that, 1.84, 2.84, 3.09. And then add another 1.13, so 4.22. Then another 9 hundredths, 4.31. So Atlantic City has gotten over 4 inches, and I saw reports that some places in Toms River have already gotten over 6 inches of rain. So, and they're going to pile on some more.
And these were places that we're not really supposed to get much more in 24 hours than a quarter of an inch. Certainly, it's a lot more than a quarter of an inch that has fallen down there, and it looks like more of that to come. So long as that storm pretty much stays in the place where it is now, Joe, just moving round and round and round within a 50-mile radius, what else can I tell you except there'll be more rain to come, more heavy rain to come in places right on through tomorrow and the end of tomorrow night.
Now, WPC has, so I've got the 3-day rainfall totals here. So it basically has another inch and a half up and down from Sandy Hook on southward, right along the immediate coast, an inch and a half, and that red is just touching the coastline. So the red area is like 2.5 inches plus. The 1 inch line right along the Connecticut coast, White Plains, about Route 80. I just wonder whether this might wind up being maybe it might be a little bit further north than that, given what we're seeing on the radar. So this is on top of what's already fallen. And yet I have not seen much in the way of it. There hasn't been any flash flood warnings up. There's only one flood advisory up for parts of Monmouth County. That's the only one I've seen so far, in spite of the heavy rain.
Well, if anybody out there is saying right now, yeah, you guys have any good news for us to tell us or whatever? Yeah, there is some good news, because once we get past later Wednesday, it would appear that we're going to be in line for a couple of really nice, mild, dry days, Thursday and Friday. You know, I think that Thursday and Friday, we could see temperatures locally in the New York City metropolitan area within a few degrees of 72. And not only that, and then after we flirt with those kind of temperatures for a couple of days, in comes a huge Canadian high pressure system getting ready to push in for the upcoming weekend, first weekend of October. And with that, no, actually not, because we transitioned this past weekend to October. But nonetheless, it's going to turn unseasonably cool. Sunshine, but cool. Very autumn-like by next weekend, after this little flirting with temperatures in the low 70s Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, and I may stand corrected there on those lows. That might be the Saturday morning low and the Sunday morning low for me in North Georgia. I got to give it a closer look. I quickly pulled up the local forecast, and you know, these days my mind is more and more like Teflon. Nothing sticks to it. So anyhow, what's going on? All right, let's look at the upper air and examine what's happening. And I went back to last Friday so that we could see where Ian was and what else was happening overall in the flow. What we have here is a split flow. You have a jet that's running across southern Canada, north of the Canadian border. Weather systems in that jet are kind of moving from west to east. heavy breathing you hear is Mr. Rayo, by the way, just to let you know. Yeah, what are you, fogging up the screen? What are you doing?
No. No, I'm just breathing.
Okay. So that's your Canadian. That's the northern part of the split. Then you have the southern part of the split here that's controlling, that controlled Ian, which is right there. And then you have an upper low that's sitting over in Idaho. And the thing is, that upper low in a normal atmosphere would have kicked this whole thing out to the east. But it didn't do that. And the reason it didn't do that is back here in the Pacific, this trough that you see in the Pacific. And what's happened is the bottom part of that trough has cut off, and you've got a closed upper low. And now we're into Monday. You have a closed upper low that is sitting somewhere halfway between Seattle and Hawaii. It's not moving. So if that's not moving, this upper low and trough in Montana can't move, and therefore the system in the east can't move. And it won't move until the northern part of the jet stream can come down and phase with this system that's over in Montana. And that northern system, the system in the northern jet, is way up in northwest Canada. Well, what's going to happen is that northwest Canada shortwave comes down, and you see it there, amplifies as it moves through James Bay, and then suddenly the Montana system can move. And then finally, this thing, and now I've moved the map, this is Wednesday, and the upper low is still just southeast of Atlantic City, but it's starting to move, and then finally it gets kicked away to the northeast, only to have this trough amplify as it moves through the eastern part of the United States. And now, as you mentioned, Joe, for the weekend, where's our air coming from? Follow the flow all the way up from northwest Canada, all the way down into the southeastern part of the United States. And this time of year, that is very cool air that is coming down. And this pattern a month from now, we would describe that probably as cold air that's coming down. And that we would probably see temperatures in 30s and 20s and all the rest of it. This is a very, very chilly pattern, and I'm kind of curious. In my mind, my wheels have been turning, Joe, wondering, is this something that are we going to lock into something now, and this is just sort of a prelude to what's coming down the road for November and December? Of course, I don't know what the answer to that question is, but I keep going back to the fact that this is the first autumn in quite a few years where we've actually seen a pattern like this set up this early. We've had to wait sometimes to November or even December in some years to see something like that, and in some years we had to wait till January, like last year. But it's setting up early, and I'm just wondering whether this is like the hints of what the primary pattern may be as we go deeper into the fall and maybe going into the first part of the winter.
Well, the Climate Prediction Center does have us in a below normal pattern right on through the 17th of October. And I might also add that they have us in a drier than normal pattern through the 17th of October. So maybe it will be that we'll be seeing a spell or protracted period of below normal temperatures and drier than normal conditions taking us through the middle part of October. And indeed, the air that looks like it's heading our way for this upcoming weekend, high temperatures in the upper 50s to around 60 and low temperatures at night, at least in the lower Hudson Valley, dropping on down possibly into the 30s.
By the way, bless you.
Excuse me. Oof.
Been waiting for that. I want to acknowledge Scott Briller back tonight from his time off and recovering from his cold/mini flu that he had late last week. So he's all better, and he hit the Super Chat tip jar before the show even started tonight. And thank you so much, Mr. Scott. So beyond this, once this cold shot comes in, it's going to lift out. But as we look through the long range, the tendency for deep troughs to drop into the middle of the country and into the Northeast seems to be there, Joe. Is one after another, just kind of rotating there one after another. And there's even some blockiness that develops around the middle part of the month in the North Atlantic. So that's a pretty interesting, certainly a pretty interesting development in terms of what we're going to be seeing down the road. And by the way, if you are a cold weather lover, I think the most important thing to focus attention on is in the Pacific. If we can get these, if you get these troughs that are somewhere along or near 160 west, like you see here in the long range, and we don't know if this is real, but there's a real wrapped up animal storm south of the Aleutians that's cutting off. When you get deep lows like that and deep troughs in that vicinity down near 160 west, that usually favors troughs in the eastern part of the United States. So you can thank that big storm that went to Alaska and those two other typhoons that recurved for basically kickstarting this rather chilly looking pattern that we have overall over the next several weeks.
Well, we'll see. I took a look at the experimental 3 to 4 week prog at the Climate Prediction Center.
You can share it if you'd like.
I could.
Yes.
What if I don't? But what if I don't feel like sharing it?
Well, you know what? Well, now you.
All right.
Wait. Hold on. Something just happened here. I don't know what happened here, to tell you the truth. All my windows just disappeared. So let me create. Let me create a new window. They did an update on the software that I use, and I noticed before the show that it just went kablooey on me. So.
Everything just went black, Joe.
Yes, I know, exactly. All right, so now I got that window back. So let me see if I can bring you back up. All right, just a moment here. I got to change this to this. There you go. You're all set.
Hi. The 3 to 4 week temperature outlook is up. Or I'm in sharing mode right now, Joe. And those of you who can see it will notice that across much of the western and central United States, temperatures are projected from the 15th to the 28th of October, almost to the month's end, above normal. Also above normal for northern New England. But for our neck of the woods here in New York City and down the Atlantic seaboard, equal chances. I might point out that same area was projected to be below normal temperature-wise during the early part of October. So it would seem that we start cool and then start moderating a bit, according to the CPC, during the second half of this month of October. And as far as precipitation is concerned, well, let me see. Let's get the 3 to 4 week. There you go. A lot of the country will be looking at below normal precipitation, especially so in the Midwest, Western Great Lakes, and down into the Mississippi River Valley. We, too, are slightly in that below normal trend. Equal chances for either above or below normal across much of New England, Mid-Atlantic, and most of the far west.
I was looking at, I'll bring myself up here, and then we'll go back to the maps in a moment, but I just wanted to check some of the observations. You're a little small. I'm going to make you bigger. There you go. You're almost the same size as me. Brandon Doherty hitting the Super Chat tip jar. Thank you so much, Brandon. I hope everything's going well for you in Delaware with all of this. Noticing, by the way, that the wind has kind of slackened a little bit along in New Jersey and on. Well, it's basically 15 to 25, and with gusts to 30 on Long Island, and from what I can sort of figure out along these obs in New Jersey, Atlantic City is 16 to 26. And Wrightstown is 12, gusting to 21. The further inland you go, the lighter the winds are. But the temperatures, Joe, upper 40s and low 50s right now, pretty much everywhere. And I'm looking at some of the dew points up by you. Dew point of Warwick is 37 with a temperature of 50, 37 dew point, 37 dew point at Newburgh, 38 at Montgomery. even where it's raining, the dew points are not. It's not like 50 degree. The temperature, for example, at MacArthur is 50. The dew point's 46. So there is actually a little bit of a spread there. It's taking, the humidity levels are all. I don't see anybody, believe it or not, I don't see anybody with relative humidity. You have to go to Atlantic City to get a relative humidity of 93%. Everybody else is kind of where it's raining, it's humidity levels that are in the mid 80s. So there was quite a bit of there was enough dry air that it's taken a while for the rain to reach the ground in certain areas. But obviously in areas to the south, that problem did not exist.
I had an interesting message on Messenger from a friend of mine. His name is Evan Zucker. He lives in San Diego, but he has come to the New York area to visit with his mom, who, God bless her, is 93 years old. He wanted to visit her today or tomorrow and take her out. She uses a wheelchair to move around. But he said, I didn't want to do that if it's going to rain. And I wasn't anticipating this. I didn't realize that it was supposed to rain. He said, I guess what really surprised me is that for a couple of days, the forecast for today was dry, but the reality was anything but. Was there a sudden change in the atmosphere that surprised the meteorologist? Then he put some parentheses, other than you, of course, who doubtless saw what was coming. Ha ha. No, it was just that, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, that all of the model guidance really underplayed, and let's underscore that word more than a couple of times, underplayed what this coastal system, now east of New Jersey and south of Long Island, underplayed all of the precipitation that we were going to get out of it. I mean, no way in the world did we ever see on any of the models, and even a suggestion of 1, 2, 3, 4 inches of rain.
Well, hold on. The Weather Service did, when I was pulling up the digital maps this morning, for Central and South Jersey, they were showing 1.5 to 2.5 inch amounts. Now, obviously, those weren't high enough, but rain was there in the forecast. It's just a matter of in these sorts of situations where the low is. This was one of those cases like we would deal with in the wintertime, where there would be that sharp northern cutoff, and you're sitting there thinking, okay, is it going to be right near the coast? Does it gravitate 40 or 50 miles inland? I don't know. I don't know what the New York people were doing over the weekend, but it was pretty obvious to me, even on Friday, that we were going to have at least some rain Monday into Tuesday with this low offshore. But it wasn't that big of a bust. I mean, I don't think it was that big of a bust, in my opinion.
I think yesterday that there was a suggestion of some rain, and again, not all the models. There was, I think, one model that was suggesting, waves of possible heavy rain and more than an inch of rain. But a lot of the models and a lot of the forecasts were tilted toward, there might be a shower. Might be a couple of showers here and there. Certainly nothing.
If anybody who put just a shower in the forecast, particularly from New York City south, no, then they completely misinterpreted what was going on. Again, in my never to be humble opinion.
Okay.
Bow
down to.
No, but
the
models. The models were showing some areas getting more rain. The European in particular was showing some big amounts, Central and South Jersey and points south. You know what I think, Joe? I honestly think there was so much going on last week with Ian that we normally, if that wasn't there, we probably would have spent more time talking about what might be happening for this first part of this week. And I think that maybe got lost a little bit. Everybody it was all about Ian, and rightfully so. But again, it probably got lost. We probably would have played it up a bit more had that been the only thing that was on the weather maps.
Well, I've said that. I think I even mentioned that either last week or the week before that, for example, in the wintertime, when you're in the throes of a big snowstorm, or you're right in the middle of a snowstorm, and still it is up to you to put out an extended forecast for the next 7 days, you will look at that task and say, look, I'm not really going to spend all that much time on this. I'll say, what am I going to say? clouds. All right, chance for a couple of flurries or maybe a snow shower. You just don't bother because you've got too much on your mind. The same thing as you just mentioned with Ian. Ian took center stage at the end of last week, and forecasters who were concentrating on that were saying, that's interesting. Why is it that they're keeping rain here until early next week, until next Tuesday? What is that? A remnant of Ian or another trough coming in? All right, we'll just say a chance for a few showers and put that aside. And that's basically what I think happened over this past weekend.
Yeah, William of the Jersey Shore. Do me a favor. I put it on there on the chat board. Really, do me a favor. Go away. Just go away. If you've watched this show long enough, okay, if you watch this show long enough, you never would have said what you said, okay? So let's just leave it at that, all right? Weather people, weather people only forecast what the models say. Not these two weather people. I don't know about anybody else.
I will say that I have seen people who have just come out of college, or people with only about a year or two in the business, so to speak. A lot of them, they don't even plot a map. They don't even look at a radar or a satellite picture. They just look at the model and they say, okay, that's what the models say, and go ahead and do that. Of course, if you've been in it as long as the two of us have, we look at the models, and sometimes we'll even laugh. They say, what are they doing? What's going on here? And, you try to line up what is happening versus what is being predicted or forecasted by model guidance. And when they don't line up, when they're not all on the same page, then something very definitely is right. Mr. Reingold? We have a Mr. Reingold on the chat board, Joe. Says the drought is over.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I know there's a regular on the comments on the YouTube chat that this is a 10-year drought that we're in here in the Northeast. Well, guess what? for much of the area now north of New York City and up parts of the Hudson Valley and further north, there's still some dry areas, but the last couple of weeks with some of these rain events has taken care of a lot of that. So we've gotten rid of. I'm a little touchy, Joe, tonight because I just did a 10-hour drive yesterday from the east coast of Florida all the way back to North Georgia. So I'm just getting back into normal.
You're punchy.
I'm punchy. That's a good word. I'm touchy. I'm punchy here tonight. Dante, excuse me, Dante. Where'd you go on the chat board? I lost you. But he says he has 4 inches of rain somewhere in Jersey. And as I said earlier, my mind is like Teflon right now. Nothing is sticking. Leon Probitsky hitting super chat tonight. Thank you very much. And by the way, we got a nice audience tonight too, closing in on 300 viewers at the moment and 2,000 views. Thank you very much and welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Subscribe to the Joe and Joe Weather Show with your Gmail account on YouTube, and you'll get notifications because we're on 5 days a week. Monday through Thursday at the new start time, which is 5 minutes more away from the old start time, 7:35, and Sundays at 11 a.m. and Fridays and Saturdays we're off. But if there's a storm, going on, then Joe and I rearrange the schedule a little bit, like we did last week and did a show on Friday when Ian was going into South Carolina. All right, let's go back to the models here. And by the way. In terms of what forecasters are supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do, I agree with you. Was for some people, they don't even look out the window, and they don't even look out the window, and they don't have enough practical experience that you accumulate. Dante's Peak near Sandy Hook. Thank you. They don't have the practical experience of the day-to-day. Plus, you and I are a dying breed because we didn't have 5,000 models to look at. So, we had a few, we looked at them, and then we used our experience to fall back on what to forecast and how to forecast. And sometimes it would vary quite a bit from what models have. But yeah, these days, You don't see much of that. They put up that future cast, and that's the MBN, which is a compilation of all the models, put together, and you come up with some sort of an average, and that's it. And there's no insight, there's no context, there's no nothing. So that's why I don't watch.
We cannot fall back on the old 2.LFM, the barotropic, which we used to refer to as the bustotropic, the primitive equation model, or the 72 and 84 hour 500 millibar progs, which we used to salivate over because we never could go much further than 84 hours in the olden days. And now you've got models going out 15 days in advance, and you can have them in living color on your computer screen. It was nothing like that back in the Stone Ages when Joe and I were growing up and getting our feet wet in this business 40 some odd years ago.
No, I mean, you had something. You had to physically get on a bus to go and look at a map or a train or a subway and go someplace. You couldn't do it from your house. I got the U.S. satellite loop, and while everything is going on with this Gale Center, surprisingly enough, there's not a whole lot going on weather-wise. Now, there is Hurricane Orlene on the lower left of the screen, got to a Category 4 hurricane and moved into the southwest coast of Mexico today. And you can see that moisture is streaming. Well, as soon as the loop starts looping, you'll see that moisture is trying to stream up northeastward. And as we check out, we'll go to the wide U.S. radar, and you can actually see some of that moisture starting to move into South Texas. Not a lot, but in fact, much of that isn't even reaching the ground yet. We do have quite a bit of shower and thunderstorm and flash flood warnings up, and even a severe thunderstorm warning up over parts of Arizona. That's quite a bit of that's an interesting and rather impressive complex of rain and thunderstorms there, Joe. And also with that system out in Montana, that upper air system, and that's producing some showers and maybe a rumble or two of thunder from eastern Colorado, northeastward through parts of Nebraska and into North Dakota. Again, that's going to all be part of the next system and cold front that's going to be moving through here. And as we take a look on the GFS tonight, you can see the rain. This is at 2 a.m., 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. If the GFS is correct, there's some pretty heavy rain going on in southeastern Pennsylvania and in south central Pennsylvania. And the gradient actually tightens up again as that low just moves northward and then back westward toward the southern part of the Delmarva Peninsula. So it may actually get windy again later tonight into tomorrow morning and afternoon. And still some lingering rain around tomorrow evening into Wednesday. And yeah, Joe, you look at the GFS, it's got some what looks like, convective stuff in northeast PA and northwest Connecticut and in the Hudson Valley. Right. So you may very well be correct here that there might be a thunderstorm in there with this. And then finally the upper low starts to move away. But here comes the next cold front. And that big high, it's a big high, a 1036 high for early October. That's a big high. And there's your cold front Thursday evening, just about into, well, I drove it a little bit too far east, but there it goes, into northwest Ohio, southern Illinois, southern Kansas, and then we'll move the map along. And yes, that's dark blue snow on the Canadian side of Lake Huron. And then by the time we get to Friday evening, it's actually a little line of showers and storms that moves through upstate New York and northern PA late Friday afternoon and evening. By Friday evening, the cold front is through you and through me, and by Saturday morning, I'll be in the upper 20s. In fact, I think they only have highs into the 50s here on Saturday and Sunday, as the high comes down into Missouri and then starts to move east into West Virginia by the time we get to Sun. Look at this map for Sunday, Joe. There's hardly any precip anywhere. Just about the whole country is dry.
Indeed. Remember the original thinking about a week ago as to what might be happening now, Joe, is that we were looking at high pressure building over the northeastern states, and we were contemplating whether or not that might be enough to actually block off or push the remnant moisture from Ian, or that upper disturbance from Ian to the south of us. And now here we are a week later. And actually, that high, the combination of that high plus the remnants of Ian, or that upper level system, is helping to tighten the pressure gradient out of the north-northeast, which is why the winds are so active out of the north-northeast now, and probably right on through tonight and tomorrow as well. So, it just goes to show you how things can change, or how your thinking can change over a span of only 5, 6, 7 days, as to what reality actually brings to you. And reality is bringing to us now a gusty wind, clouds, and quite a bit of rain for parts of our viewing area, which likely, because of the fact that that upper system is sort of idle in neutral gear, is going to continue into tomorrow.
By the way, when this next high pulls out, we'll probably see temperatures warm up a bit into the middle part of next week. But there's another front and another big high. This one comes down a little bit further to the west into Montana. I'm going to, just out of curiosity, I want to see the kind of temperatures it's showing. This is for the very end of next week. And I've noticed that over the last 4 or 5 days that the models have been kind of keying on this, and they haven't really moved away from it. But okay, so this is next Thursday, and it's got lows in the 20s across the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wyoming, Montana, and then on Friday morning, you've got 20s and 30s spreading into the Great Lakes and into eastern Canada. And by the next Saturday, we're looking at lows, a lot of 30s in the Northeast and down into the Mid-Atlantic states. So there's another cool air mass to follow. And in between the one that comes in this weekend, a bit of a warm-up. But remember, this time of year, a warm-up might only mean temperatures in the 60s, maybe getting back to the 70s on a given day. But it doesn't look like it'll be much more than that before another front comes on through. And one other thing with this overall pattern, when you look at it going forward, after this system gets out, there's not going to be a whole lot in terms of precipitation other than when these fronts go by. So if we needed a lot of rain, we needed to do it with this setup here, because after that, we're going to be in a bit more of a progressive pattern where systems are going to be moving from west to east on a fairly regular basis. And since it's a northwest flow out of Canada that's ultimately going to be controlling things, it would suggest that there's not going to be a whole lot of moisture that we're going to be able to tap out of this.
And Joe Z on the chat board saying, we had a white Halloween 10 years ago, October 30th, 10 inches at Avoca. That's in Pennsylvania, northeast Pennsylvania. And I will just simply say to Joe Z, yeah, I vaguely remember that. Yours truly had on his front lawn out here 14 inches. 14 inches of heavy, wet snow, which did quite a bit of damage to some of the trees that were on my front lawn. They literally were. Some of the trees, maybe not the trees themselves, but big limbs and branches all over my front lawn. And that probably, in the 20 some odd years I've been up here, Joe, that was probably the greatest catastrophe or disaster for me, weather-wise, it was to have 14 inches of heavy, wet snow before Halloween. I mean, that's something that I could have only have dreamt about when you and I were living in Throg's Neck, but
yeah,
that's what happened.
I got to find this comment, by the way, that was on you. You're going to love this.
I hope, Joe Z, I hope you're not hoping for a repeat of that. I certainly do not want to see a repeat of that this year. Now, what are you looking for, Joe?
There was a comment left on the chat on one of our YouTube videos, or it might even have been over the weekend, and I responded to it, but I want to read it to you because it's funny. Hold on one second. I have to find this. So I'm thinking it's going to be on this particular video. So just give me a moment and let's see. Hold on. I have to bring it up on the screen. Okay. I'm punchy. I'm slow on the uptake here. Technically have screwed up a few things. We just stop that. And where is it? Oh, that's not it. Let me look at one other place. I'm not going to take everybody's time, but it's important that it's important that I read this. Maybe it's in this one. Okay, let's try this one. I just gave it a one-word answer. Let's see. Oh, please be here. Please be here. It's so worth reading. Okay, where is it? No, I can't find it. Bottom line was, poor Sal Blandino, he posted about how everybody was talking about the big high from the north pressing southward and forcing this thing so far south that we were going to have partly to mostly sunny skies today and tomorrow. And it was a long paragraph. I finally, when he got to the bottom, I just wrote no. Just no. No.
It's too bad we don't have. It's too bad we don't have, or have reached that point where we could have like Joe and Joe cups, Joe and Joe T-shirts, because that could be one T-shirt we could have with something that says something like Sal Blandino wouldn't like the weather today.
Yeah. Well, no, we need the Reuben Fairchild Award.
The Reuben Fairchild Award, yes, and he didn't like anybody.
No, exactly. So whatever we did, it was wrong. Either, we apparently took 2 days off during the week, and that was wrong. We adjusted our start times because of either storms or things going on, and that was wrong. So, and who knows where he is, as we haven't seen him. So let's do a little bit of Briller Jeopardy here, and the chat board is invited to participate in this. So stand by. Here we go. So it's here. I don't even know what the answer is. At least I have a guess, but I'm not 100% sure. So we're going to all work together and figure out the answer to this question. What are the 5 most storm surge prone areas in the Atlantic Basin? Actually, I do know the answers. They're on the board. See, this is how messed up my brain is. Okay. I have the answers here, Joe. I'm sorry, but when I looked at this and I thought, okay, I'm supposed to guess maybe which one of these 5 is correct, but apparently, I just realized these are the answers. So name the 5 places in the United States. Okay, so we'll narrow it down. 5 places in the United States. The five most storm surge prone areas in the Atlantic Basin.
When you say storm surge, do you mean emanating from a hurricane or a tropical cyclone?
This would be from a tropical cyclone.
Well, I would say somewhere. I'd immediately look toward the Gulf of Mexico. I'd say New Orleans.
Well, Jason Schaefer says New Orleans. And see if anybody else says New Orleans. Steve LaPointe saying New Orleans. And, New Orleans is number 5 on the list. Number 5. So we've got 1 down and 4 to go.
Well, how about Mobile, Alabama? Would that be on the list?
No. I'm seeing other choices here from folks like Rich Rothmansky saying Nags Head, North Carolina. RGK9 Radar Ruler says Grand Banks, North Carolina. Let's see. Steve LaPointe says Cape Hatteras. Brandon Doherty says South Carolina, New York City, Delmarva. Oh, I can tell you that, Brandon, of those three, all three of them are not on the list. Mark DeCara, Long Island, no, not on the list. Delaware Bay, not on the list. And um, nope, nope.
Key West?
Key West, hold on. Key West is number 2, and if those that said those that say Cape Hatteras, and we could maybe probably generalize and say the Outer Banks, they're number 3. So we have number 1 and number 4 left to guess. Not California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about? Would it be somewhere along the Texas coast?
Negative on the Texas coast.
Oh, wow.
Not Galveston.
Galveston. Oh, Galveston!
I know a few people have met. Houston is inland, Mike Shaw. So no, they're not. That wouldn't be it. And Brownsville is also a no, and also the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Fed Lefkowski on the guess for Florida. I need more specific information, please.
Well, somewhere in the Florida Panhandle, maybe, or.
Well, you have a whole state there to think about.
Well, I said the Panhandle.
No,
how about
one person has already mentioned it. Jason Schaefer has mentioned it. He is correct. So there's one on the East Coast and a spot on the West Coast. The one on the West Coast is Tampa.
Really?
Yes, because of the shallowness of the bay.
Okay, all right.
And by the way,
I'm thinking about all those media reports last week saying that this would be the first time that Tampa got hit direct in 100 years or so. But I guess you don't have to get hit direct in order to get major flooding or major coastal mayhem out of a storm that's in the eastern Gulf of Mexico.
Well, if it's coming in from the west, the worst place for the coast is going to be along and just south of the eye, because the folks south. This is why Fort Myers and Naples, the center actually went inland north of them. But the reason why the surge was so bad on the south side, because they affect, we explained this a few times on the Ian shows we did last week. They basically get a double surge, because if it goes in north of them, they're getting a south to southwest wind ahead of it, which is pushing water in. And then when the center goes to their north and starts to go by, the wind shifts to the west, and that pushes in even more water, so the original water that got in doesn't go out. Now, Tampa, you might have seen, I don't know if you saw it, Joe, but Tampa was getting a northeast wind through the whole thing. It blew all the water out of the bay. There were parts of Tampa Bay, because it was so shallow, people were actually able to walk across it. So the problem for Tampa is if they got into a situation where a storm went over them or just to their north, where they would get into that double surge, that would flood that whole area, not just Tampa, but all of Pinellas County and even surrounding counties.
And there would be like the blowback. I mean, like initially everything would come out, and that would get, that's the reason why people could walk in the bay. And then when the storm system passed on by, everything gets pushed back with even greater ferocity or whatever. So,
by the way, 107 likes tonight. Thank you so much. Those of you who haven't hit the like button, Joe and I love when you hit the like button. So maybe you could push us up to, say, 150. That would be great. So go ahead and hit the like button. And if you like it that much, make sure you subscribe so that you can watch this show, as I said, every night. I'm trying to think. There were a couple of other subject matters I wanted to bring up weather-wise. And as I said, my brain is kind of messed up. So I got to remember. I have to go back to writing this stuff down before the show, which I usually do. but for some reason, I forgot to do it today. Any thoughts? Any additional thoughts you want to add?
So do we have any? Did we get all 5 of them?
Oh, we didn't get number 1, also in Florida.
And I'm trying to figure if the Keys were number 2, correct?
Yes.
So either the spot that's number 1 is either somewhere along the West Coast or maybe somewhere along the East Coast of Florida. I would think.
We're now on the East Coast.
So I don't know, Melbourne, Florida, or
south.
further south, Miami Beach.
There it is, Miami Beach. Yes, live from Miami Beach, the Jackie Gleason Show.
Yeah, that was a cool opening when Jackie Gleason was on in the '60s, and it was basically like a super duper zoom over open waters until finally you came to the city of Miami, and then all of a sudden Johnny Olson, it's the Jackie Gleason Show. Da, 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 da. Well, anyway.
By the way, now I just remembered one of the things that surprised me. Just to go back to Ian, one of the things that surprised me was the extent of the surge that occurred in South Carolina. I was a bit surprised that it was as high as it was, considering the fact that the storm didn't really spend a whole lot of time out in the open waters, and it did strengthen a bit, but it didn't. Obviously, it was never going to get down to what it was when it approached the southwest Gulf of Mexico. But I was really surprised in that short period of time that it was able to generate the kind of storm surge that it did.
So was I. I was very everything was so surprising. The last week everything has been very surprising. Starting with last week with Ian and continuing right up until right now with this. I guess you could say this remnant of Ian, this upper level system, which is causing mayhem, or not mayhem, but causing problems across much of the northeastern United States, or at least southern New England into the New York area.
You know what?
What?
Jason Schaefer, you get the Rayo and Cioffi Award for the brilliant analysis. He just hit it on the head. South Carolina, and it's right, it's true, and I should have realized this because I was in along the east coast of Florida in Fort Pierce and Boynton Beach. Now Boynton Beach is just south of West Palm Beach, and Fort Pierce is about 100 miles, well, a little less than that, to the north, and we had the heaviest rain that we had was actually the night before. The thunderstorms that we had was the night before landfall. Jason points out, he said that South Carolina was in the right rear quadrant for a couple of days, and that probably made a huge difference. That was the difference. Very good analysis. That's absolutely correct. That had Tom Contino's on the board tonight. He hasn't been around for a while. No, Tom, Joe Rayo cannot comment on the construction of a migrant relief center in the Bronx by Mayor Adams. I mean, come on, we're in the middle of a show here, and that's what you put on. Jeez, this is a politics-free zone. I don't know how many times I've had to tell you this. Now you should have watched earlier when it was revealed how punchy and touchy I am after a 10-hour drive yesterday. But come on. So for those of you who are new, this is a happy place, right, and we like to keep it that way.
Here is the hard and fast rules of this particular page. 1, we want you to be kind and considerate. If you post, pretend the person is sitting next to you and not behind a screen. Would you say the same thing? If not, don't. 2, no bullying, no name calling, no pot stirring. It won't work. This includes passive and aggressive statements, digs or insinuations. 3, leave your personal baggage at the door. We all have baggage. It's not invited. 4, this is for you, Tom, no politics and no plagiarization of anybody else who may have posted something on the chat board or post something, a link, let's say, that has something that is not all that kind. So
right. And I would
basically that's it.
I would just add no criticizing of other professional weather people here because it's not appropriate.
No, that was the Reuben Fairchild Award.
Right. We don't do that here. So I mean, I don't watch anybody. I just don't. So and I don't care. It's not relevant to me what other people are doing. What's relevant to me is me getting my forecast correct, and that's it.
All right, and one thing before we close out the night, Joe, I may or may not be here tomorrow night for the show because my sister Lisa managed somehow or other, I don't really know how, but she managed to get hold of a couple of tickets for tomorrow night's Met game. Now, normally I would say, well, it's a couple of tickets, but this particular ticket allows access to, and I've never been in there before, the Hyundai Club. And my sister said it's a great thing to go to. If it rains, you can stay in the Hyundai Club and stay dry. And free food in the Hyundai Club. He said sliders, hot dogs, hamburgers, anything you want to eat or drink, all free in the Hyundai Club, because I guess she's a member of the Hyundai Club. Again, I've never been there, would like to go there, but unfortunately, based upon what I've been looking at weather-wise, I'm probably not going to be there tomorrow because I don't think there's going to be a game tomorrow night. But if there is a game, I'll be there. But if there's not any game tomorrow night, and it looks like that's more likely, I'll be right here sitting with you, Mr. Cioffi, talking about another day of rain in the tri-state New York area.
I have now unhidden Tom Contino. Okay, because I yelled at him. So if I yell at you, then it's done. I've yelled at you, and now we move forward. All right. So
and Jason Schaefer, thank you for hitting super chats. Unless Joe has already thanked you for that, but thank you.
I was going to, and then I got distracted by Tom Contino. Brandon Doherty, don't worry about it. No problem.
I know the game was called off tonight, Tom. I know that. I said that at the very beginning of the show. The game was called off. And the weather out there is going to be about the same, if not worse, tomorrow night, which is why they're probably not going to play tomorrow night. And I might also point out, because I like free food, Joe. I don't know about you. Free food, free drink. That's what's being offered to me at the Hyundai Club at Citi Field. And it figures that I'm not going to get it because it's going to be a rained-out game. And now for all of you Met fans out there, like yours truly, guess what? End of the fifth inning, and it's Marlins 4, Braves nothing. I mean, the Mets couldn't get one friggin' game over the weekend from the Braves, and now here the Marlins are knocking the Braves off, maybe tonight. And that would be so funny if the Braves got swept by the Marlins. And then where does that leave the Mets? The Mets are sitting here in the rain, waiting for it to stop raining.
Boy, you and I haven't ranted like this in a long time.
Yes.
Oh God. Well, okay. Now that he's talking baseball, you know what? We've been on for quite a while, an hour and 13 minutes. So on that note, we're going to leave it here. Tomorrow night, Joe and I will be back at 7:30 Eastern Time. For those of you who want to get more weather and just can't get enough of weather, there's a link at the top of the chat board that's pinned there, and you can access my subscription site on Patreon, which is patreon.com/meteorologist Joe Cioffi. It's just $2 a month. That's the bottom tier. There are higher tiers for those of you who need day-to-day hand-holding, if you're a snow removal guy or gal. Anyway, Tom says, sorry I got off on a tangent. Oh, okay. You want to call that a tangent? That's like an oblique angle you got off on.
What does Mayor Adams have to do with weather, or is that a tangent show?
Oh, so we're gonna have to come up with a Tom Contino Award.
I don't even live in the Bronx anymore, neither do you. So It doesn't matter to me whether or not anything is happening in the Bronx thanks to Mayor Adams,
Thank you for the
whole different story.
Thank you for the 134 likes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the 134 likes. A lot of people watched the show tonight, Joe. A lot of people. So
Yes.
Thanks for joining us, and hopefully you will come back tomorrow, 7:35, right here on my YouTube channel, Joe Cioffi, and become a part of this really crazy but fun family here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Good night, everybody.
Yes. Have fun.